My name is Orin Vox. I am a Korthian. I am 200 years old. I stand 2.8 meters tall. I have thick, gray-blue skin that has been hardened by decades of combat and training. I have a broad face with wide-set eyes and 4 nostrils that flare when I am angry. I have clawed hands that have ended more lives than I can count. I have bony protrusions along my skull that mark me as a member of the warrior caste. I was born on Korth Prime, raised in the warrior tradition. I was trained from childhood to fight and kill and conquer. I served in the Korthian military for 160 years. I rose through the ranks. I earned my place. I earned my scars. I earned my reputation. I was a drill instructor at the Galactic Military Academy. I was the senior drill instructor. I trained the best. I trained those who would go on to become officers and commanders and leaders. I trained those who would defend their species against the threats that lurked in the dark between stars. I was good at my job. I was the best at my job. I had been doing it for 40 years, watching frightened recruits grow into confident soldiers, shaping the military minds of a dozen species. I had trained generals and admirals. I had trained warriors who became legends. And I threw it all away because I could not control my hatred for humans. I will tell you this story, not because I want your sympathy. I do not want your sympathy. I want you to understand what it is like to be so convinced of another species' inferiority that you cannot see the truth until it is too late. This is the story of how I ended up in a military brig for 5 years. This is the story of how a human girl named Rita Quinn destroyed my career. This is the story of how the universe found a way to humble me. I do not like humans. I have never liked humans. I do not think I will ever like humans. But I respect them now. And that is more than I ever thought I would say. The first time I saw a human was on the tarmac of the Academy landing field. I had heard about them. I had heard they were discovered by the Zinthari a few centuries ago. I had heard they had been granted membership in the Galactic Council. I had heard they were spreading across the galaxy at an alarming rate. I had also heard they were dangerous. Not like Korthians, with claws and teeth and military might. But in a different way. They adapted quickly. They bred quickly. They showed up where they were not expected and did things that were not supposed to be possible. The Korthian Empire had learned that lesson the hard way. I had read the war reports. I knew what humans had done to our fleet. But that was war. That was ships and strategy. That was different from seeing one in person. They came off the transport ship looking small and fragile. The Galactic Council had mandated that the Academy accept human cadets. The Academy had resisted. The Academy had argued. But the Council had overruled them. And so the humans came. There were 12 of them. First-year cadets. They stood at attention on the tarmac, and I walked down the line and looked at each one. They were bipedal. They were unremarkable. They were primates, descended from tree-dwelling ancestors, and it showed in their posture and their movements. They had soft skin that bruised easily. They had small teeth that could not tear flesh. They had no claws. They had no natural weapons of any kind. They were the most pathetic species I had ever seen. I introduced myself. I told them my name, my rank, my history. I had served in the Korthian military for 160 years before becoming a drill instructor. I had fought in 17 campaigns across 7 star systems. I had been decorated for valor 12 times. I had been wounded in combat 8 times. I had killed enemies on 20 different worlds, some with weapons, some with my bare hands. I told them I would make them into soldiers or I would break them trying. The human girl was standing in the middle of the line. She was small even by human standards. 5 foot 5.5 inches tall. Mousy brown hair pulled back into a tight bun. Lean but muscular build. She could not have weighed more than 55 kilograms. Her name was Rita Quinn. I stopped in front of her. I looked down at her. I let my full height tower over her. I let my nostrils flare. I let my ridges tighten. "Cadet Quinn," I said. "Sir, yes, sir." Her voice was steady. Her eyes were fixed on a point beyond my left shoulder, exactly as regulation required. "You are a human," I said. "Sir, yes, sir." "You are the smallest cadet in this intake." "Sir, yes, sir." "You are the weakest cadet in this intake." "Sir, not very likely, sir." I stopped. The line of cadets went rigid. I heard someone inhale sharply. "What did you say, cadet?" "Sir." I said, "Not very likely, sir." I leaned closer. I let my breath wash over her face. I let my claws extend slightly. I let my voice drop to a low growl. "You are telling me you are not the weakest cadet in this intake?" "Sir, I have trained in mixed martial arts since I was 7 years old, sir." I am not strong compared to most species, but I am not weak compared to humans, and I am confident I can hold my own against any cadet in this intake, sir. I stared at her. I wanted to break her right there. I wanted to grab her by the throat and squeeze until she understood her place. But she had done nothing wrong. She had answered honestly and respectfully. I had no grounds to punish her. At ease, cadet. Sir, yes, sir. I walked away. I could feel her eyes on my back. I could feel the eyes of every cadet on my back. They had seen me challenged by a human female who barely reached my chest. They had seen me hesitate. I would not forget that. The first day of training was physical assessment. I had designed the exercises myself. They were brutal. They were designed to push cadets to their limits and beyond. I had designed them for Korthian cadets. I had not modified them for humans. The first exercise was a 5-kilometer run in full combat gear. The gear weighed 30 kilograms. The temperature was 40 degrees Celsius. The humidity was 90%. For cadets collapsed before they reached 3 kilometers. They were from low-gravity worlds. They had never experienced conditions like this. I had them carried off and marked as failures. 7 cadets barely passed. They were staggering. They were vomiting. They could barely stand. Rita Quinn finished in 18 minutes and 32 seconds. She was not breathing heavily. She was not sweating more than normal. She stood at the finish line at attention and waited for her next order. I wanted to hit something. The second exercise was an obstacle course. It included a 4-meter climbing wall, a cargo net, balance beams, mud pits, and a 100-meter sprint. 4 cadets failed to complete the course. 7 cadets completed it with acceptable times. Rita Quinn climbed the wall without hesitation, crossed the cargo net like a spider, ran the balance beam without slowing down, crawled through the mud pit faster than any cadet I had ever seen, and sprinted the final 100 meters like she was being chased. Her time was 3 minutes and 45 seconds, competitive for third-year cadets. I stared at the chronometer. She was standing at the finish line at attention, composed, controlled, waiting. I turned around and walked away. The third exercise was strength testing. The cadets were required to lift, carry, and drag various weights calibrated for Korthian cadets. Rita Quinn lifted every weight she was given, carried every load, dragged every mass. She did not complain. She did not ask for help. She did not show weakness. I stood on the observation platform and watched her. I watched her help cadets who were struggling. I watched her encourage the ones failing. I watched her demonstrate proper technique. She was not just surviving. She was thriving. She was making me look like a fool. I had been training cadets for 40 years. I had never seen anything like Rita Quinn, and I hated her for it. A few days of instruction passed. I spent them watching her. She followed every regulation. She performed every task. She never complained, never faltered, never showed weakness. The other cadets started noticing. They whispered about the human girl who kept up with Korthian training standards. I could not let it continue. I ordered the cadets to assemble in the hand-to-hand combat training hall. It was a large room with padded mats and weapons racks along the walls. The air smelled of sweat and disinfectant. The cadets stood at attention in 2 lines. I walked down the middle. Cadet Ektar stood in the front row. He was a Kryn, a reptilian species from a high-gravity world. He stood 2 meters tall. His scales were deep green shading to brown along his spine. His claws were sharp. His muscles were dense and powerful. He was not aggressive. He followed orders. He did exactly what he was told. Cadet Ektar, you will engage Cadet Quinn in hand-to-hand combat. You will use physical superiority to take her down. You will not hold back. Ektar's yellow eyes met mine. Sir, yes, sir. Rita Quinn stepped onto the mat. She weighed 55 kilograms. He weighed 130 kilograms. I sat down on the edge of the mat. I folded my arms. I smiled. Ektar circled left. Rita circled right. They moved in a slow, deliberate dance. Ektar lunged. She ducked under his arms. She pivoted on her left foot. She drove her right knee into his midsection. The impact made a sound like rock hitting meat. Ektar grunted and doubled over. She grabbed his arm. She used his momentum against him. She twisted, pulled, and dropped her weight. Ektar flew over her shoulder and hit the mat on his back. He scrambled to get up. She was already moving. She kicked him in the side of the head. The force sent him rolling. She followed, grabbed his arm, locked his elbow, and applied pressure. He tapped out in 30 seconds. I stood up. She released him and stood. She was not breathing hard. She was looking at me with calm, steady eyes. I wanted to tear her apart with my bare hands. I walked out, past the cadets, past the equipment racks, past the observation window where 2 instructors were watching. Out the door, I threw my data pad against the wall. It shattered. Pieces scattered across the floor. The display cracked and went dark. I stood there, breathing hard, fists clenched, claws extended, trembling with rage. Cadet Quinn wins again, I take it? I turned. Lieutenant Commander Solara Vex stood behind me. She was a luminari, an amphibious species with smooth skin and large eyes. Her skin was pale blue, shading to green along her throat and arms. She was the assistant training coordinator. She was my immediate superior. She was the only person in the academy who was not afraid of me. Stay out of this, Commander. I cannot stay out of it, drill instructor. Her voice was calm. It was always calm. You threw a data pad against a wall in a public corridor. Cadets saw you. Instructors saw you. I saw you. It was an accident. It was not an accident. You lost your temper because a human cadet defeated a Kryn cadet in a sparring match. She humiliated him. She won. That is what matters. She should not have won. Humans are not fighters. They are weak. They are fragile. They do not belong in this academy. Your prejudice is clouding your judgment, drill instructor. My judgment is clear. Humans do not belong here. Rita Quinn is the most promising first-year cadet we have seen in a decade. She outperforms every cadet in her intake. She helps her peers. She follows regulations. She is exactly the kind of soldier this academy was designed to produce. She is a human. She is a cadet. One of your cadets. She deserves the same training and respect you give every other cadet. I stared at her. My claws were still extended. My fists were still clenched. Respect, I said. Is that what you call it? Yes. And if you cannot give it to her, I will recommend to the commandant that you be reassigned. She turned and walked away. Her footsteps echoed in the corridor. I stood there surrounded by shattered pieces of my data pad, and I hated Rita Quinn more than I had ever hated anyone in my 200 years of existence. But I could not touch her. I could not break her. I could not even punish her. She had done nothing wrong. That was the worst part. Rita started making friends. It happened naturally. The other cadets gathered around her during meals. They asked her for advice during training. They sought her out during free periods. I watched her build relationships with cadets from a dozen species. They looked up to her. They respected her. They followed her. She shared stories about her homeworld. She talked about New Aberdeen on a colony world called Caledonia. She talked about her family. She talked about her training. She talked about her dog. His name was Guppy. He was a small terrier mix. She loved him more than anything. She had a picture on her data pad and showed it to everyone who asked. He is the reason I joined the academy, she said once. I am serious. He was a stray, half-starved, and covered in ticks when I found him. I nursed him back to health. He became the toughest, smartest, most loyal creature I have ever known. I figured if a little dog like that could survive against all odds, maybe I could too. The cadets were charmed by her. I was disgusted. I watched her from the shadows of the training yard. I watched her from the observation platforms of the mess hall. She was everywhere. Her influence spread like a stain I could not remove. Month 2 passed. Then month 3. Rita Quinn continued to exceed every challenge. In marksmanship, she scored in the top 10%. The weapons were designed for stronger species. She compensated with technique, using her body weight to stabilize, firing between heartbeats. She hit 39 of 40 moving targets on the final assessment. In tactical training, she scored in the top 5%. She read battlefields and anticipated enemy movements. She made fast, effective decisions. In one simulation, she extracted her entire squad from an ambush with only simulated casualties, a feat not achieved by a first-year cadet in 15 years. In physical training, she scored in the top 1%. She did not win through power. She won through efficiency. She paced herself. She conserved energy. She used leverage and momentum. On the endurance run, she finished 3rd overall. On the strength test, she ranked 7th, but her recovery time was the fastest in the class. In survival training, she scored highest in her class. Dropped on a hostile world with her team, she reached the extraction point 50 kilometers away in 31 hours. She identified water within the first hour. She built shelter before nightfall. She navigated by the stars. In leadership training, she scored highest. She asked questions. She listened. She adapted. She made cadets from 5 different species with 5 different communication styles work together as a team. By the end of month 3, Rita Quinn was ranked #1 in her class. And I was losing my mind. I started making mistakes. I showed favoritism toward non-human cadets. I neglected the human cadets. I ignored regulations I had followed for 40 years. Commander Vex warned me. The commandant warned me. Other instructors warned me. I did not listen. In month 4, I finally snapped. It was during hand-to-hand combat training. I matched Rita against a third-year cadet named Kor. He was a Xylos, an insectoid with an exoskeleton and 4 arms. One of the strongest cadets in the academy. The fight lasted 2 minutes. Rita took him down with a leg sweep and an arm lock. He tapped out. The cadets cheered. I did not cheer. I walked onto the mat. The cadets fell silent. They could see the rage in my face. They could see my nostrils flare and my ridges tighten and my claws extend. Cadet Quinn. Sir, you have been disrespecting this academy since the day you arrived. Sir, I have followed every regulation, sir. You have been showing up the other cadets. You have been undermining this institution. Sir, I have only done what was asked of me, sir. You have done more than asked. You have made it look easy. You have made me look foolish. Sir, that was not my intention, sir. Your intention does not matter. You are a disruption, a threat to discipline. Sir, I am a cadet following orders, sir. I stepped closer. I let my height tower over her. I let my claws extend to full length. I let my voice drop to a growl. I am going to teach you a lesson, Cadet Quinn. I am going to teach you there is always someone stronger, someone faster, someone who can put you in your place. She looked up. Her eyes were steady. Her face was calm. Sir, is that an order, sir? It is a challenge. A drill instructor has the right to challenge any cadet who disrupts training. I am invoking that right. The cadets gasped. Commander Vex entered the training hall and shouted my name. I ignored her. Sir, do I have a choice, sir? You can accept the challenge, or you can refuse and be dismissed for cowardice. She looked at me. Her eyes searched my face. Sir, I accept your challenge, sir. Commander Vex ran onto the mat. Drill instructor, stand down. This is not authorized. Regulation 47B permits drill instructors to challenge cadets who disrupt training. Rita Quinn has not disrupted training. She has excelled at training. Stand down. I will not stand down, Commander. Orin, do not do this. Her voice was quiet now, almost pleading. Do not throw away your career over a grudge. The challenge has been issued and accepted. It is too late. She stared at me. Her skin went pale, a sign of distress among the luminari. This will not end well for you, Orin. We will see. The training hall was cleared. Cadets were pushed back to the walls. Commander Vex stood at the edge of the mat, arms folded, skin flickering with agitation. I walked to the center of the mat. Rita Quinn stood across from me. She had removed her boots. She was rolling her shoulders, loosening her neck. She looked like she was preparing for a training exercise, not a fight. I will not go easy on you, cadet. I did not expect you to, sir. We circled each other. The mat was soft beneath my feet. The lights were bright. I could hear the breathing of the watching cadets. I could hear my own heart. I was a Korthian warrior. I had killed enemies on 20 different worlds. I had been decorated for valor 12 times. I had been wounded in combat 8 times. I had fought against species stronger and faster than humans. I had never lost. She was an 18-year-old human female, weighing 55 kilograms. This would be over in seconds. I lunged. I was fast. 200 years of training. My claws extended. My arms reached for her throat. She ducked. She was faster. She moved under my arms like she knew where I would strike. She drove her fist into my ribs, just below the armpit where my uniform gaped. It barely registered. I swung a backhand at her head. She ducked again. She hit me in the same spot. Harder. I grunted. I tried to grab her. She slipped away. Like water. Like smoke. She hit me again. And again. And again. Ribs. Kidneys. Inside of my thighs where the blood vessels ran close. Throat. Below the jaw, where the air passage was exposed. Each strike was precise. Deliberate. Exactly where she intended. I started to bleed. The first minute passed. I was still standing, but I was bleeding from a dozen small wounds. My ribs ached. My throat burned. Rita Quinn was not even breathing hard. I changed tactics. I stopped trying to outmaneuver her. I charged. Full weight. Lowered shoulder. 250 kilograms of rage. She sidestepped at the last moment. Perfected timing. She grabbed my arm and used my momentum. She twisted and pulled and dropped her weight. I went crashing into the mat face first. The impact shook the floor. I heard the cadets gasp. I heard Commander Vex shout. I pushed myself to my feet. She was standing 3 meters away, hands up, feet positioned, eyes watching. She had thrown me. A Korthian warrior 5 times her weight. I was furious. I had not been thrown in decades. I attacked again. Left claw swipe. Right hook. Knee to the body. She blocked. Dodged. Deflected. Then she hit me in the face. Her fist connected with my jaw. Fast. Unexpected. My head snapped to the side. She hit me again. Same spot. And again. My vision blurred. I roared and swung wildly. I did not care about technique. I wanted to feel her bones break. She ducked under my swing. She drove her elbow into my solar plexus. The air left my lungs. I doubled over. She grabbed my head. She drove her knee into my face. I heard something crack. Blood gushed from my nose. Stars exploded in my vision. The 5th minute passed. I was on my knees, bleeding from my nose and a cut over my eye. My ribs ached. My jaw throbbed. Rita Quinn was breathing harder now. Sweat on her forehead. Strain in her eyes. She was getting tired. I smiled through the blood. I came at her again. Slower. More measured. I was adapting. 200 years of learning to adapt. I feinted left. She moved to block. I struck right. My claw caught her arm. Her uniform tore. Blood welled up. She did not flinch. She looked at the wound, assessed it, and put it out of her mind. I struck again. Caught her shoulder. She stumbled. I pressed the attack. Swung again and again. Overwhelm her. Make her block until she made a mistake. She blocked. Dodged. Deflected. But I was finding my rhythm. I caught her on the side of the head. She went down. I stood over her. She was on the mat, hand pressed to her head. Eyes unfocused. I raised my foot to stomp. She moved. She grabbed my ankle. She twisted. I went down hard. She was on top of me before I could react. Straddling my chest. Hitting me in the face. Left. Right. Left. Right. Each strike weaker than the last, but too many to block. I threw her off. She rolled and came up on her feet. The 10th minute passed. The 12th. The 15th. We were both bleeding. Both breathing hard. Running on instinct and willpower. I had broken 2 of her ribs. I could tell by the way she favored her left side. I had dislocated her shoulder. It hung at an odd angle. She reset it herself. Popping it back into the socket with a grunt of pain, she refused to turn into a scream. She had broken 3 of my ribs. She had dislocated one of my fingers. She had split the skin over my left eye so badly that blood streamed down my face. We circled each other. "You are good," I rasped. "You are not so bad yourself," she said. Her voice was weak, still defiant. For a human. For a Korthian. I almost laughed. I did not. I attacked. The final exchange lasted 3 minutes. We traded blows. I hit her. She hit me. Block. Dodge. Grab. Slip. Throw. Roll. It was the most brutal fight of my life. It was the fight that ended everything I had built. And I lost. She dropped low. She swept my legs. I hit the mat on my back. Before I could get up, she was on top of me. She grabbed my head with both hands and drove the base of her palm into my temple. Once. Twice. The 3rd strike sent me into darkness. I did not feel myself hit the mat again. I did not hear the cadets gasping. I did not hear Commander Vex calling for the medical team. I was unconscious. I was beaten. I was defeated. It had taken 20 minutes. 20 minutes for an 18-year-old human female to knock out a Korthian drill instructor with 200 years of combat experience. She did not celebrate. She did not gloat. She stood up. She walked to the edge of the mat. She sat down. She put her head between her knees. Then she collapsed. The medical team arrived seconds later. They rushed past me and gathered around Rita. I watched through blurred vision as they checked her vital signs, stabilized her, put her on a stretcher. Commander Vex appeared above me. Her face was hard. Her skin was deep red, which among the Luminari meant rage. "You are a fool, Orin Vox." I could not answer. Rita Quinn has 3 broken ribs, a dislocated shoulder, a mild concussion, bruises over 60% of her body. She will be in the medical bay for at least a week. I close my eyes. She is 18. A first-year cadet. And she knocked you unconscious. I know. Do you understand what you have done? I know what I have done. You have thrown away 40 years. Your reputation. Your career. Everything. I know. A court-martial will be convened. Charges of conduct unbecoming. Attempted murder. Abusing your authority. I know. If convicted, you will spend years in a military brig. I know. Is there anything you want to say? I opened my eyes. I looked at the ceiling. I thought about Rita Quinn. Her calm eyes. Her steady voice. Her refusal to break. She will make a good soldier, I said. Commander Vex stared at me. Her skin flickered from red to blue. Is that all? Tell her I said that. She shook her head and walked away. The medical team eventually came for me. They treated my wounds. They bandaged my ribs. They stitched the cut over my eye. They gave me pain medication I did not want. They took me to a holding cell. The door closed with a sound that echoed in the silence. I sat on the bunk and waited. The med bay was quiet. The lights were dim. The air smelled of antiseptic. Rita Quinn lay in the corner. Her torso was wrapped in bandages. Her shoulder was immobilized. Her face was bruised and swollen. She was awake. The first to visit was Cadet Ektar. He stood at the foot of her bed, claws folded behind his back. You fought well, he said. Thank you. You taught me something. What? That size does not determine victory. Technique, and will matter more. She smiled. My instructor on Earth taught me that. She said every opponent has a weakness. You just have to find it. I did not find yours. Orin did not either. Ektar nodded. He stood a moment longer. Then he left. The second visitor was Commander Vex. She sat beside the bed. How are you feeling, cadet? Like I got hit by a transport shuttle. You nearly did. Orin Vox weighs 250 kilograms. If he had landed a clean hit, you would not be alive. I know. You took a risk. The drill instructor gave me no choice. He gave you a choice. You could have refused. And let him win. Prove that humans do not belong here. He would have proven nothing. He would have proven everything. To the other cadets. To the instructors. If I had backed down, every human after me would have to fight twice as hard for respect. Commander Vex looked at her. You are remarkable, Cadet Quinn. That is what my mother used to say. She sounds wise. She signed me up for MMA when I was 7. She said it would teach me discipline and confidence. Prepare me for whatever the universe threw at me. Did it? Rita smiled. I am still alive, Commander. The third visitor was the Commandant. Commandant Valerius was a Zinthri, 350 years old. His skin was deep purple, indicating age and wisdom. He had led the academy for 60 years. He had seen thousands of cadets come and go. He stood at the foot of her bed. His presence filled the room. Cadet Quinn. Sir, you fought a Korthian drill instructor for 20 minutes. You broke 3 of his ribs. You dislocated 1 of his fingers. You gave him a concussion. And you knocked him unconscious. Yes, sir. That is not possible. Sir, it happened, sir. His skin flickered through several shades of purple. I have reviewed the recordings. I have studied your technique. I have tried to understand how an 18-year-old human weighing 55 kilograms defeated a 200-year-old Korthian warrior. Sir, I would be happy to explain my technique, sir. I do not need you to explain it. I need you to understand what you have done. Sir, Orin Vox has been a drill instructor for 40 years. He has trained thousands of soldiers, produced officers who command fleets and armies. He has been respected and feared by every cadet who has passed through this institution. He paused. And you have destroyed him. You have shown the academy that his methods are flawed, that his prejudice is unfounded, that his hatred of humans is based on ignorance. Sir, I did not intend to destroy him. I know. That is what makes it worse. You simply refused to be broken. And in doing so, you revealed the truth about him. He looked at her for a long moment. Then he turned toward the door. Cadet Quinn. Sir, get well soon. The academy needs you. He left. Rita Quinn lay in her bed and stared at the ceiling. She thought about Orin Vox. She thought about the fight. She thought about how close she had come to dying. She smiled. Guppy, she whispered. I think I finally understand how you felt. Her eyes closed. She slept. The court-martial was convened 3 days later. It was held in the academy's main auditorium. The room was full. Cadets, instructors, officers from a dozen species filled the seats. I stood at the defendant's table. My wrists were bound. My uniform was plain. I had not been allowed to wear my decorations. The commandant presided. He sat at a raised bench. His skin was deep purple. His eyes were unreadable. The prosecutor was a Draxian named Advocate Morith. Draxians loved rules and procedures. Morith was in his element. The evidence was presented methodically. Recordings of the fight, witness testimony, medical reports, the regulation I had cited. Rita Quinn's performance records showing she had never disrupted training. Each piece was worse than the last. Commander Vex testified first. She described the corridor incident, the warning, the challenge. Did Cadet Quinn show any signs of aggression or insubordination before the challenge? Morith asked. No. She was an exemplary cadet. The best first-year cadet I have ever seen. And the drill instructor? She paused. He had become obsessed with her. He could not accept that a human could outperform his expectations. He let prejudice control his actions. Cadet Ektar testified next. He described the sparring session. How I ordered him to attack Rita. How she defeated him in 30 seconds. Did you feel Drill Instructor Vox was treating Cadet Quinn fairly? No. He was trying to break her. Trying to prove something false. That humans are weak. That humans do not belong in the academy. And what do you believe now? Ektar looked at me. I believe Cadet Quinn is stronger than any of us knew. Then they played the recording of the fight. I watched myself on screen. I watched myself attack an 18-year-old human female with murderous intent. I watched her dodge and block and counter. I watched her fight for 20 minutes with broken ribs and a dislocated shoulder. I watched myself lose. The room was silent when the recording ended. You invited a cadet to a fight, Morith said. A cadet who had no choice but to accept. You claimed Regulation 47B. But Cadet Quinn had not disrupted training. She had excelled at training. I said nothing. You fought her with intent to cause serious harm. Medical reports show 3 broken ribs, a dislocated shoulder, a mild concussion, bruises over 60% of her body. You were not teaching a lesson. You were trying to kill her. I was not trying to kill her, I said. Then what were you trying to do? I was trying to break her. Trying to prove she did not belong. That humans are weak. That my prejudice was correct. The room fell silent. And did you succeed? I looked at the commandant. At the prosecutor. At the cadets and instructors who filled the room. No, I said. She broke me instead. The room erupted in whispers. The commandant banged his gavel for silence. Drill Instructor Orin Vox. This court-martial has found you guilty of conduct unbecoming an officer, attempted murder, and abusing your authority. He paused. His eyes met mine. You are sentenced to 5 years in a military brig. You are stripped of your rank, decorations, and pension. You are dishonorably discharged from the academy. The words hit me like a physical blow. 40 years of service. 40 years of training the best soldiers in the galaxy. Gone. I bowed my head. The court-martial is adjourned. I remember walking out of the auditorium. I remember the eyes of the cadets on my back. I remember seeing Rita Quinn in the audience, arms still in a sling, face still bruised. She looked at me. I looked at her. I nodded. Just once. She nodded back. Then the guards took me away. The new drill instructor arrived a week later. His name was Trainer Vorith. He was Korthian, like me. But he was not like me. He was patient. He was fair. He did not carry hatred in his heart. He took over the first-year cadets. He pushed them hard, but fairly. He did not single anyone out. He did not show favoritism. Rita Quinn thrived under his training. She continued to excel. She continued to help her peers. She continued to build relationships with cadets from a dozen species. At the end of the year, the cadets graduated. Rita Quinn graduated number 2 in her class. Number 1 was Cadet Ektar. He had continued to improve after his defeat. He had studied her technique. He had learned from her example. He had worked harder than any other cadet. On the final examination, he beat her by a margin of 0.3%. She congratulated him personally. She shook his clawed hand. She told him he had earned it. He told her she had taught him how to win. They received their assignments together. Both posted to Sentinel Station on the edge of explored space. A dangerous assignment. The kind that made or broke young officers. Rita Quinn was excited. She wrote a letter to her mother. She wrote a letter to her father. She wrote a letter to her dog. She told Guppy she would be home soon. That she would see him again. That she loved him. Then she boarded the transport ship and left the academy behind. I watched from the window of my cell. The brig was in the same facility. I could see the landing field. I could see the ships coming and going. I saw her ship lift off, climb into the sky, disappear into darkness. She was gone. She was never coming back. I sat on my bunk and thought about everything. My career. My prejudice. The human girl who had destroyed everything I built. I did not hate her anymore. I could not hate her. She had done nothing wrong. She had only refused to break. I was the one who broke. I was the one who let hatred consume me. I was the one who threw away 40 years of service because I could not accept that a human was better than me. Rita Quinn was a better soldier. Faster. Smarter. More disciplined. More determined. She was better. And I could not accept that until it was too late. I lay back on my bunk and stared at the ceiling. The lights were dim. The walls were gray. The air smelled of recycled oxygen and regret. I had 5 years in this cell. 5 years to think about what I had done. I would be 205 when I got out. Too old to return to the academy. Too old to return to the military. Too old to do anything except find a quiet corner of the galaxy and wait. But I would have 5 years to reflect. My name is Orin Vox. I am a Korthian. I was a drill instructor. The senior drill instructor. And I was beaten by an 18-year-old human female named Rita Quinn. I will never forget that. I will never forgive myself. But I will respect her for it. That is how I ended up in a military brig for 5 years. That is how a human girl destroyed my career. That is how I learned the universe will humble you no matter how powerful you think you are. Rita Quinn served with distinction at Sentinel Station. 3 years. 2 promotions. Decorated for bravery. One of the most respected young officers in the Galactic Military. She returned to Earth. She reunited with Guppy, who was old and gray but still alive. She spent a year with her family. She wrote a book about her experiences. It became a bestseller across a dozen species. She was offered a position as a drill instructor at the academy. She declined. She said she had no interest in training soldiers. She was interested in leading them. She rejoined the fleet. Command of a patrol vessel called the HMS Defender. 5 years on the frontier, protecting colonies and trade routes. Promoted to captain of a destroyer, then commander of a cruiser squadron. She led her squadron through a contested zone where 3 species had been fighting for a century. She negotiated a ceasefire. She established a neutral trade zone. She brought peace to a region that had known only war. She was promoted to Admiral at 38. The youngest human to ever achieve that rank. She commanded the largest human fleet ever assembled. She never forgot the fight. She never forgot the lesson. In her memoirs, she dedicated a chapter to me. She called it The Lesson of Orin Vox. She wrote that I was the best teacher she ever had. Not because I taught her how to fight. She already knew how to fight. But because I taught her what she was capable of. She wrote that she hoped I found peace. As for me, I served my 5 years. Released on good behavior. I found a small world on the edge of explored space called Terminus. I built a cabin near a lake. I lived alone. I hunted and fished and thought. I never returned to the academy. I never returned to the military. I never returned to the life I had known. But I watched the news. I watched Rita Quinn rise through the ranks. I watched her become everything I had tried to prevent. And I was proud of her. Not because I liked humans. I still do not like humans. But she earned my respect. She fought me for 20 minutes with broken ribs and a dislocated shoulder. She never gave up. She never surrendered. She never stopped fighting. That is what a soldier does. That is what a warrior does. She was better than me. And I am glad she was out there, protecting the galaxy, training the next generation, making the universe safer. Because if it ever produced someone like her again, I would want to be on her side. My name is Orin Vox. I am a Korthian. I am 205 years old. I live alone on a small world on the edge of explored space. And I respect humans. That is the story of the new recruit.